What's up, guys? Dimebot here. Today, let's talk about For Honor. This is the PC beta of the new game coming out from Ubisoft. And, well, it was fairly interesting. Now, as always, this is going to be more of my initial thoughts and impressions on the game as it is in the beta. Please remember that beta is beta, it's not final. That being said, let's take a little look at the game. Now, it was a beta. There were actually a lot of server issues. However, I'm not really going to focus on those that much. Let's jump into the options here real quick. So, here's your controls. This is actually not a bad control menu. You can remap your keys, although you can't do secondary bindings. Also, for some reason, even though the Xbox controller worked, I couldn't seem to figure out how to remap it, but it worked fine for me. I also actually was able to play with my Cytec X52 Pro, which I would not recommend. It was very awkward and weird, but kind of funny nonetheless. So yeah, not actually a really bad menu. It lets you rebind pretty much everything that you would want to rebind, including emotes and quick chat selections, so wasn't really all that upset with it. I'd like to see some more options in the final build of the game, but for a beta, serviceable. Inverting axes, you've got mouse smoothing. Please, God, turn it off. It kept on coming back on by default. Alright, for display, well, we've got 3 different modes. You've got the display monitor select, aspect ratios. You can change the field of view, which is extremely nice. This is not bad. Really not a whole lot to complain about here. The resolutions go up all the way to 4K, so that was nice. As for the graphics, now, this was running on extreme. Game's pretty ugly, even on extreme. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. It's not the best looking game I've ever seen. Some of the texture details actually quite bad. I at first thought it was on medium, and when I saw it was on high, I was actually kind of shocked. You do have super sampling anti-aliasing, but I tried it out, and it's a massive hit to the frame rate. You do need to turn a few other things down to use it. Now for audio, all the audio sliders have their own, well, separate sliders. That was very redundant, Dime. Good job. One of the biggest things that bugs me about this game, though, is there's not an option to just turn off voice chat. Please, Ubisoft, recognize that I don't want to talk to every random asshole on the internet, and sometimes I don't even want to talk to people in my group, or I might have TeamSpeak or Discord open. Let me turn off voice chat. Alright, so that's kind of a look at the options menu. Let's talk about customizing, because this is a game where you unlock different fighters, and you play as them. And there are a decent amount of customization options. So you can unlock them by earning in-game currency, which you get via playing matches. That should be nothing new, really, to anybody. The thing that I like is that not only is the gear that you unlock in this game, it's cosmetic, but it also has stat balances. Now, of course, that brings up the whole microtransactions thing. If they allow me to pay for gear that has good stats, well, there goes the balance of the game, because you just let me pay for power. So I hope that they don't do that. I haven't seen a whole lot detailing how that works, but let's unlock a hero here and take a little look. So this is the Conqueror. Now, you'll notice that it says 1. They started at level 1 and they level up. And as you do, you unlock different gear and things. So you can see you've got a chest piece, a helm, and an arm piece. I don't have anything unlocked for this guy, unfortunately. I wasn't actually able to unlock a lot because I only ever finished one match because of the server problems, so hopefully we can go a little bit more in depth with that later, but wasn't able to really experiment too much with the system. I did unlock, I think, 1 piece of gear, and I got a feel for the system, and I like it. It's a way to reward you for playing and also put your own stamp on your hero. Now, here's the store. I hope this is just for buying or selling you the full version of the game. Let's jump into a 1v1 against the AI so I can talk about what For Honor is. At its core, this is a game that is about one-on-one dueling. You have this chevron, this shield pattern that appears around yourself and your enemy, and you'll notice the different flashes. These are pressing up on the control stick, left or right, or the corresponding motions of the mouse. These are how you block by, let's say that the AI there swings on the left, I need to block on the left. This is also how you attack by left-clicking on the mouse, or right-clicking for a power attack. There's also stuns and throws done by using the middle mouse button. So it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors thing, except you do get a quick flash, a quick tell of what your opponent is going to use, which gives you time to parry them. It is pretty skill-based. It's actually kind of fun. I do appreciate the system. I didn't really seem to run into a lot of issues when playing against live opponents with lag causing me to miss either. It was usually my fault or one other thing we'll get into when we actually take a look at some gameplay of live, larger matches. So, the strategy here, obviously, is to read your opponent's attacks, find the opening, and attack them. You can also sidestep and dodge roll, which is something that I had a hard time remembering to do. I got so caught up in what was going on with blocking and striking that I forgot I could actually get the hell out of the way and then come back in, so kind of a problem. Now, as you gain kills, or as you make kills in-game, you gain in-game levels for that match, and it allows you to unlock different feats, and they can be things like, for example, the samurai can gain the ability to heal himself or to call in a rain of arrows. I found it a little odd at first, but put into perspective, it kind of makes sense, at least the calling in a rain of arrows or things like that do. It's kind of a strategic thing that you would do in an actual battle during this time period. If you're a Viking or a samurai or a crusader, you know, they vary depending on who you're playing and what you want to call in, but each different class is set up to be unique in that way, and it adds some diversity, especially because they all have their own weapons and play styles, and some of them are rated as hard, some of them are rated as medium, some of them are rated as easy, so there's a lot of diversity with the characters. Of course, I'm not doing so hot against the AI, so maybe not the best thing, but we will be able to see another feature here, which is the Revenge. Now, Revenge it occurs when you're outnumbered generally, but it allows you to kind of have a better chance at fighting. I believe it ups your attack stat and decreases your damage just briefly, but you can also see here that the environment gets in the way of your strikes, so you kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing. Now, as far as I was able to tell, there's actually no penalty for blocking too much. You do have a stamina meter, but I was never able to actually run it out. And I will say the AI is actually pretty good. When you first play the tutorial mission, they're kind of stupid, and you can basically beat them by just doing the same thing over and over again, but that doesn't really work on the later difficulties. Now, of course, you can also do one-on-one duels against other humans, and you can also do 1v1 duel, or 2v2 duels, rather, against other humans. So, decent amount of gameplay variety there. And, of course, the last mode that we're going to get into here in just a second is actually the domination mode. I actually believe they call it Dominion. It's domination that you've seen in every other game before, where you have to control a few points and reach a certain score. It does have a couple different twists, though, and we will definitely jump into those, because they're probably the things that I like the most about this game. To be perfectly honest, while I found the 1v1 duels to be fairly entertaining for a short period of time, I can't see myself playing them all that much. Maybe 2v2 would be a little different, but 1v1 I wasn't hugely impressed with. It was alright. So let's jump into one of the other matches, the Dominion match, and talk about it. So here you have teams of 4v4, and there's a lot going on in these maps. So let's take a more in-depth look at that. So there's going to be 3 different points, and there's usually an elevated one right in the middle that has a certain special feature we'll talk about, and then one somewhere off to the side. A lot of the times a little bit, down low or in a room or something like that. Now, I've purposely not cut the loading time here because this was one major problem I had with the game, and this I don't know if they're going to be able to fix. The loading time are absolutely obnoxious. This is on my SSD. I don't know where the hiccup was, if it was something about the way the game streams and stuff, or if it was actually server side, but loading times are atrocious. So for an online game, that's something that really needs to be fixed, and it's something a lot of other online games do just fine. So I'm really hoping it is a beta issue they can iron out, because if not, it's definitely going to be a major bugbear for this game. Alright, when you are finally able to load into one of these matches, you're generally treated with a little short cutscene that kind of sets up the battle, or at least your side of it real quick, and then it's off to combat. Everybody charge, and glorious, glorious melee action. So as you can see, you got the 3 points A, B, and C there on your HUD. They're pretty easy to see. Just run off over here and grab this one real quick. And the points are captured by spending a little bit of time in them, and if you defend them, you can actually up how many points they'll generate. You'll see AI NPCs battling in the background, and that's where the major feature of the middle point usually comes in. You can see it right there. It's a battle line, and little armies, little hordes of computer-controlled NPCs for each team clash here, and you can basically walk up and just slaughter them. You're basically a god here. And what you want to do is kill the enemy NPCs and push the line forward, and this will allow you to capture the point. The other two are standard: stand on them, capture them, hold them. But this one is more of an active battle, and you just slaughter the NPCs. Now, when you're fighting humans, you generally drop into, you use control to drop into your fighting stance so that you can block or time your strikes in the way that we saw in the 1v1 duel. And these are really kind of cool, as they can happen in the middle of a fight. You'll be slaughtering your way through a horde of little peons, and suddenly you'll see another player, and you'll both drop into your defensive stance and begin a normal duel. Or at least that's the theory and the design to the game, at any rate. However, what I found actually happened in practice, and what I think is really going to kill this game, is that instead of dropping into your guard stance, you just run around and swing your sword and gang up on everybody and completely eliminate the one-on-one tactical aspect of the game. And there is absolutely no penalty for it. In fact, you're heavily rewarded for doing exactly the opposite, because you are able to gang up and eliminate the enemy team, push, take the points, and therefore win the game faster. I'm not sure if this is a intentional design decision or if it's something they simply didn't foresee, that players would choose to basically run and gun, for lack of a better term, instead of engaging in the tactical combat. But now, as we discovered on my own stream, your best strategy is to say to hell with actually using the defensive stance and just gang up on everybody. Just 3 people versus 1, it doesn't matter how good they are at blocking, they're not going to win. So I think that's going to be a major sticking point for this game, is that, you know, I wanted to try and play it the way that it was kind of intended, with the one-on-one duels in the middle of these epic battles. And just, you know, that's a very cool concept, but it was ditched almost immediately by almost everybody we saw in the different matches. So, you know, when you are one-on-one, you know, a lot of the times you will drop into the stance, but, you know, to dodge roll away, you have to come right back up out of it. So there's very little incentive, I feel, to actually use that system that's built into the game. As you can see right here, you know, I'm just getting killed, and there's nothing I can really do about it. I'm not sure how that's going to play out in the long run, but I think it may be a potential major issue for the game. Alright, so let's talk about the actual fun factor of the game before I just nitpick a few more things. When you are running in this mode, it is incredibly clunky feeling. When you're in combat, it feels responsive, at least when you're circling around another opponent, but there's a lot of times where I would like to stop mid-swing and do something else, dodge out of the way. And I know that for realism's sake, you know, you're not going to stop swinging a giant axe very quickly, but the animations seem to go on absolutely forever, and there's no way out of them. Likewise, it's very easy to get hung up on hordes of enemies. And while, yes, again, this is realistic, if you're in the middle of a melee and you want to quickly get out of it, it's not going to happen, because you're going to be caught up on the hordes of other soldiers. The amount of times I died because I could not get my character to face the way I wanted to, because I kept hitting the hitboxes of the soldiers, be it my side or the other side, I can't count them, and it was extremely frustrating. It was just aggravating that I could not make my character do what I was pressing the buttons to make him do, because I was getting caught up on these little hitboxes for these guys. Now, the setting is great. The sound design is phenomenal. The sound of weapons clanging, the sound of armor jingling, it all sounds amazing. Swords hitting flesh, maces swinging, all of it. It's the sounds of the war going on in the background, the siege. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm a big fan of it. I thought the sound design was excellent. Graphically, the game is serviceable. There are some pretty hideous textures. A lot of times things fade in. The frame rate is stable, which I will chalk up to the graphics being pretty unintensive, but I really feel like this game could look a little better. The animations are good when you're in combat, but again, when you're running around, it's very janky feeling and looking to me. Once again, beta, so I hope this is something that gets sorted out, but graphically, I feel like this game has a lot of issues and a lot of things that need to be worked on. It's perfectly serviceable, but I've certainly seen better looking games, especially in 2017 and especially on my rig. But, you know, you take what you get, and if they had to cut a few things back for the sake of well-performing multiplayer, then that's a decision a lot of developers aren't willing to make these days, so I would have to respect them if that is in fact the reason that it looks the way it does. It's by no means ugly, it's just not one of the best looking things I've ever seen, and I was surprised that it wasn't any better looking than it is. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on the game? Well, we only got a slice of the multiplayer. There is supposedly a single-player campaign. From what I remember seeing and from what I know of it, it's very much going to be like you're playing through a single-player version of one of these assaults. You know, helping your troops push, killing hordes of other troops, and then fighting AI bosses that are basically the equivalent of fighting other players. So, Unless it has a really, really great story, I see that gameplay getting stale very, very fast, but that's just my opinion from what I know, so that's certainly not set in stone. As far as the beta, I would say the multiplayer is serviceable. There is another aspect to the world map where you kind of fight for different factions, the Vikings, the Samurai, or the Crusaders, and you fight for control of the land. You can deploy different troops and things between battles, and it runs on a longer scale clock in the real world. And it's kind of a competition to take and gain land and hold it, and you can earn rewards for it. So that's a neat little metagame aspect. I would love to see how it holds up once the game comes out. Obviously, we didn't have enough time for the beta servers to really tick over too many times to see how it actually is going to work out, but it's a neat idea. If you're a real big fan of this setting and you, say, didn't like War of the Roses or Chivalry, this may be a good game for you. I probably won't be putting too much more time in it. I didn't find it that compelling, and I wasn't incredibly impressed with it. But, again, that is purely objective, or purely subjective, rather. So, take it for what it's worth. Alright, guys, that is going to do it for me. That has been a little talk about For Honor. It's going to be coming out soon, so if it looked like something you're interested in, by all means, go check it out. And for everything else, keep it locked right here on my channel. My name is Danbot. We'll see you next time. Like what you saw? Click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Or click on one of these other videos.